All right, I have to talk about Cloudheim because this game caught me completely off guard in a way I honestly didn't expect. I remember seeing the screenshots and thinking, okay, this looks cute. Maybe a fun little action RPG with anime styling. Probably simple, probably light. But the deeper I got into the gameplay, the more I realized this isn't just light fun. Cloudheim is genuinely engaging, surprisingly deep, and way more polished than I expected. And if you're into fast-paced combat, expressive characters, and co-op adventures that keep you hooked for hours, you're going to want to hear this. Cloudheim is one of those games that immediately feels good in your hands. You move your character for the first time, and instantly the controls feel smooth. Dodging feels responsive, attacks connect cleanly, and the character animations are buttery smooth without being floaty. There's this perfect balance between speed and weight, which is actually rare in action RPGs. Some games in this style feel too heavy, like you're dragging the character around. Others feel too fast and slippery. But Cloudheim hits that sweet spot where the movement feels fluid, but every swing or spell still carries impact. Once you start fighting enemies, the combat really comes to life. The game is built around mobility, dodging, repositioning, weaving in and out of attacks, chaining combos, and timing abilities. It feels more like a character action game at times than a traditional RPG. There's almost this dance-like rhythm to combat, where everything just flows. You jump in with a few quick attacks, dodge an incoming hit, unleash an ability, chain that into a finisher, reposition, go again. And when you land a clean combo, it feels incredibly satisfying. What really impressed me is how distinct each character feels. These aren't just different skins with similar moves. Each one has a unique playstyle with its own timing, abilities, strengths, and quirks. Some characters move incredibly fast, slicing through enemies with precise attacks. Others are heavy hitters with massive skill animations that shake the screen. And then you have characters who lean into ranged magic, projectiles, summons, and big, flashy effects that completely change the feel of battle. Because of this variety, switching characters doesn't feel like minor experimentation. It feels like switching to a new game with new mechanics to master. Cloudheim supports multiplayer, and playing with friends turns the whole experience into pure, controlled chaos. You've got one person tanking enemies at the front, one player launching huge AoE spells across the map, another dashing around with high mobility attacks, and suddenly the screen is just a beautiful storm of effects. Bosses feel exhilarating in co-op because you need to stay aware of what your teammates are doing. You can't just tunnel vision on your own combo. You need to watch for boss patterns, enemy waves, and special attacks while also supporting your team. And when everyone syncs up abilities at the same time, the entire arena erupts in color. It's chaotic, but it's the good kind of chaotic, the kind that makes you want to play one more run again and again. Graphically, Cloudheim is gorgeous in its own stylized way. It doesn't chase realism, and that's exactly why it works. The bright colors, smooth outlines, soft lighting, and anime-inspired effects make the world feel vibrant and inviting. Floating islands hang in the sky, magical crystals glow with soft gradients, and spell effects burst with bold neon colors that instantly catch the eye. It's the kind of art style that looks great during gameplay, and even better when everything goes wild during combat. The way sunlight catches on edges, the way shadows fall across the terrain, the glow of magical auras. All those little touches elevate the visuals far beyond what you'd expect from a smaller action RPG. Exploring the world is also really satisfying. The floating island concept gives the game a light, airy feel that encourages mobility. You're constantly moving forward, hopping across platforms, exploring new areas, finding loot, discovering new enemy groups, and uncovering optional challenges. The level design gives you a sense of progression without overwhelming you. There are secrets tucked into corners, optional encounters that reward curiosity, and enough variety to keep each area feeling fresh. On the RPG side of things, Cloudheim's progression hits that perfect middle ground between depth and simplicity. You collect materials, you upgrade your gear, you unlock new abilities, and you customize your characters in meaningful ways. The game gives you enough freedom to experiment with builds without drowning you in complicated systems. Each upgrade feels like it matters, and unlocking new abilities genuinely changes how your character plays. You start thinking about ability rotations, synergy, cooldown timing, and positioning, the kind of small but important decisions that make combat feel deeper the more you play. I also love how the UI and menus feel clean and readable. They're stylized to match the game's vibe, but they're not cluttered or confusing. Everything is easy to navigate, and you always know exactly what your upgrade options are, what materials you need, and how your stats are changing. The design feels intentional and player-friendly, which is something a lot of action RPGs struggle with. One of the biggest reasons Cloudheim works so well is that it respects your time. It doesn't force you into long, slow tutorials. It doesn't overcomplicate systems for the sake of pretending to be deeper than it is. It doesn't drown you in filler quests. Instead, it gets straight to the fun, the combat, the exploration, the flashy abilities. The pacing feels tight, polished, and satisfying. And that's honestly a huge strength in modern gaming, where a lot of games stretch content to feel longer rather than better. And I can't ignore the sound design. The soundtrack is upbeat, energetic, and full of personality. It has that anime action RPG feel, with catchy melodies and dynamic tracks that shift depending on where you are. Combat sounds are crisp. Every hit, every spell, every ability has weight. When you land a heavy attack, you feel it through the sound. When magic explodes on screen, you hear that burst of energy. Even the little environment sounds help sell the atmosphere. Wind moving across floating islands, soft ambient tones in magical areas, little chimes and sparkles from loot drops. Cloudheim also has a surprising amount of charm in its character designs and animations. They're expressive, confident, and full of personality. Character idle animations have life to them, attack animations have flair, and even small gestures feel stylized. It's the kind of game where you immediately grow attached to a character just because of how they animate during combat. Now, to keep things balanced, Cloudheim isn't trying to be the next huge 100-hour open-world blockbuster. It knows exactly what it wants to be: a tight, polished, stylish action RPG that's fun solo and even more fun in co-op. And because it knows its identity, everything feels focused. It's not bloated. It's not stretched thin. It's not trying to be everything at once. Instead, it doubles down on the things it does best: fast combat, satisfying progression, expressive visuals, and fun multiplayer. The more time I spent with Cloudheim, the more I realized how much care went into building something that feels genuinely enjoyable to play. And at the end of the day, that's what matters most in an action RPG. Is it fun, minute to minute? Does combat feel good? Are abilities satisfying? Do I want to keep playing? Cloudheim nails all of that. So, if you enjoy stylish, responsive action RPGs with fast-paced combat, expressive visuals, co-op support, and a world that feels warm and alive, Cloudheim is absolutely worth keeping an eye on. It's charming, polished, and surprisingly deep, and it might end up being one of those games you don't expect to love, but you do anyway. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.